Hodan is also currently a board member for Muslim Family Services in Detroit, Michigan, which helps at-risk youth and provides counseling to Muslim families by working with imams in their local community. Hodan recently had the pleasure of helping coordinate various conferences, the Association of Girl Scout Staff in New Orleans, Louisiana, in April of 2010, the Islamic Social Service Association Conference in Michigan in 2010 as well, and the Somali Diaspora Youth Conference, which is currently going on. So if you guys can please give your undivided attention to Hodan. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Asha. I'm going to try to figure this out while using this. Okay. Okay. All right, basically the goal of this session, inshallah, that I want to get out of is that we're going to be discussing what at-risk youth is, just basically defining that term, some of the potential outcome for at-risk youth, some of the characteristics, some statistics, and early childhood counseling for parents, early childhood counseling for youth, healthy relationship, defining what that is, stress and anxiety, additional role model, late adolescent counseling, and why some at-risk youth make it and why some of them don't. Just kind of understanding why, some of them do make it. And how to engage them, the last thing, inshallah. Okay, I wish I had a clicker, so I'm gonna. Okay, so basically, I want to know if anyone knows what at-risk youth is. Can anybody define that for me? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Their upbringing, yep. That's a good definition for it. That's good. Okay, basically, just what he said, some of the characteristics are poor parenting skills. I think that with the environment, it has a lot to do with it, but even if you grow up in an environment that's really horrible, if you don't have the correct parenting skills, you still will not make it. Even if you do come out with a good neighborhood and you don't have the parenting skills, it'll be hard for you. So family conflicts, negative role models, and also lack of structures and rules. If you don't have structures and rules in place for the youth, later on they won't be productive society to our community. Also, some of the characteristics are single parenthood. Stress can lead to that, exhaustion, long hours, depressions. Also, a bad neighborhood, like he said, would later on lead to drugs and a lack of things to do. Community, also negative peer influence. We'll go into more in detail about that as well. Low birth rate, poor social skills, and minority status. So these are some of the characteristics for at-risk youth. Some of the potential outcome that at-risk youth face are teen pregnancy, drug use, criminal and antisocial behaviors, violence and theft. They probably not going to reach to high school education or lower. Marriage that usually tend to divorce or unhealthy relationship that can end up in a poor abusive relationship. Social economic status, short lifespan, mental health problems will later occur, and low IQ. Here are some statistics that we need to just be aware of. This is something that's going on nationally. So 1 in 4 children who are under 6 years old below poverty line, each year they spend in below poverty line 2% of their likelihood to get a better education or finish high school. 77% of 8th graders reported having used alcohol, and 13.5% had more drinks in the last 2 weeks. So this is something to be very critical, just so that you think that, okay, my son and daughter are not involved, but they might have friends who are involved in using these substances. Teens with friends who are engaged with high-risk activities are more likely to imitate those behaviors. So if your son and daughter or any one of their friends say, okay, yes, I am not involved in that, I don't take part in that, eventually, if they see that all the time or hang around that same environment, eventually they'll pick up those behaviors. But you also got to understand if your youth, your child or your son or daughter is more of a leader, they might not tend to do that. If they're a follower, that's where you need to be more concerned about. So also consider like discussing conflict resolution with your son and daughter, with the youth. Talk about some of the, so if a youth has a various ways to solve problems and conflicts are less likely to be in a fight or get arrested. So conflict is a huge thing that we should discuss. So these are some questions that I just kind of came up with that some of the parents should be discussing with their early childhood adolescent. So know like who your teens are hanging out with, know who their friends or circle, and make sure that they're not with the wrong crowd. And then just like, just approach them by asking them just questions. You don't have to just say, oh, I don't like your friend, stop hanging out with your friend. Just get to know who their friends are by asking questions. And that's the only way you'll know your son or daughter. So also monitor, ask them what kind of activities they're involved in. You just need to know what their environments, their surroundings are. And also know also like how do they deal with their safeties with your teenagers. And if there's negative behaviors or rules, how do they navigate through that? How do they navigate through the rules and behaviors that are set in place with them? And how do you monitor your teenager? You need to understand, like, okay, you have the rules and structures in place. How do you monitor that and how do you navigate? So that's the kind of things that you need to be discussing with them. And then with your early childhood adolescent, and I'm talking about between 13 to 15-year-old, they have some kind of a small slice of freedom. You need to understand and instill with them with this freedom comes with great responsibility and making sure that they're safe. So you need to understand, like, have them identify one person. It doesn't have to be their parents. It doesn't have to be someone it doesn't have to be their mom and dad. Just someone that they can identify, that they can go to for advice and concerns. And what do they do to stay safe? What kind of activities do they do after school? That's really, really critical that you understand what your child is getting involved in. And what are their friends? Get to know their friends. Know who they're hanging out with. Just don't think that, okay, my mom, dad, I'm going to be hanging out with their friends. Who are their friends? How do you contact them? Do you have their information? So you just need to be aware of that. So healthy relationship, when you think about healthy relationship, it's not just what we think of a boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm talking about healthy relationship between your parents, your mom and dad, your sisters, your family, your friends, your teachers, community activists, people that are like solely who are positive influence in you. So these are some examples that we should be aware of. So be respectful when discussions of disagreement. So if you're discussing issues with your child or you're with youth, just be mindful of those things and listen to each other's. Be calm. Don't blame. Once you blame, they automatically shut down. They don't even listen to half of the stuff you're saying. They completely shut down. So these are some problem-solving models that I use with some of the people that I work with. So using these models, discuss together what are the problems. Brainstorm some solution of like being creative, come up with some solution. Have them come up with some solution and set in stone some consequences that would think of them for later on. Have them pick an idea or choose one that would take place. And then figure out if it works. And if it works, good job, congratulate yourself. And if it doesn't, try to repeat those steps again. So basically, I'll give you an example. I call it the Obama case because it was during the election time at Girl Scout Heart of Michigan. I had two mentors that were running a program for me. And I supervise a large amount of volunteers and interns, and they had a particular school. In that particular school, they were doing a program for first graders and kindergarten. And I had a parent and grandparents who were running this facility for me. So they basically went through the training and everything, and they're set in place. So they were having some conflict issues and difficulties doing this program. So I had the parent called, the two leaders that are working together, the parent called complaining that the grandmother is discussing Obama and the issues that are going on, that, you know, that she felt like it should be separated between church and state, and she just felt like it was unnecessary to continue to discuss this for kindergarten and first grade. And she was just really upset. She said, you know, she didn't eat for 2 weeks. She was really stressful, didn't sleep. She just can't work with this person. And she's just so frustrated that she was ready to basically quit, you know, literally just really upset, crying and everything. And, you know, I just basically calmed her down, and I, you know, told her that this is something that we have to discuss together. I can't solve the problem right now working with you. We need to sit down and work it together. So we sat down, and I told her, you know, it seems like your problem is not Obama, pretty much, and it's not because of church and state. So basically, some of the questions that I asked was, she discussing that she's promoting for someone to vote for Obama? No. Okay, the election is, fortunately, election is over, and she didn't know she was speaking to one of Obama's greatest supporter. So given that, I just basically told her that, listen, you know, we need to figure out, it seems like your problem is not dealing with Obama, and then we need to figure out some of the consequences. So we discussed what the problem is. The root of the problem was like for them working together as a team and then delivering the program to those younger girls. So by sitting together, the grandmother was very, very organized, had a lot of information together, and she was more of like an active person. So we discussed some of the problems, made a brainstorming activities with them, both of them, so that they can deliver the program for the girls to counsel them. So basically, with that problem, they came up with a solution, which was, I could have told them the solution, but I wanted them to come up with a solution that they can work together better that. So we used this model to use that. So they discussed the problem, and it wasn't even the whole issue with Obama and discussing Obama, you know? And we hear it all the time. It's all over news. It's the first black president, and I told her that, you know, this is the kind of thing that we're going to be hearing all the time. The kids are learning at school. So that's not the case. So after that, finding that they basically came up with a solution by working together, and by the grandma doing more of the scheduling, and she was going to do the activities with the girls. So that worked out great. And the same example, I don't know if I have enough time, so I'll just skip that problem. So the stress and anxiety is also key for to discuss with with the youth. The stress, some of the symptoms will definitely lead to suicidal and at-risk youth. This is very critical that you discuss how to deal with stress and anxiety. Make sure that, you know, they eat right and exercise. And my parents always say, take it to the prayer rug, because that's the only way that you can release your stress. That, you know, it's important. Those critical things that you need to discuss with your children is how to deal with the stress. How do you deal with when you're having huge exams, dealing with friends, conflict? Those kind of things are really important that you discuss that. Also, additional role model is very key to have. I know that, you know, your youth gets older, the relationship with the parents gets more complex, and it gets really hard. So identify some kind of activities that they can get involved in, and after-school activities and things like that. And some hints are look into your community services and after-school activities that they could be benefit in that. Also, for the late adolescent, you also want to be mindful of, like, they're going to be going to college and moving out or things like that. You need to be, it's exciting but also a stressful time, so those kind of things you need to be mindful of that. These are some questions to make sure that, you know, they understand, like, what their plans are, what their future plans are, things like that, to just kind of motivate them. Also, the reason why some youth make it and while others don't are statistically shown that teenagers who are involved in their schools community and religious activities are less likely to be involved in alcohol, drugs, and violence and premarital sex. So make sure that, yes, going to school is very important, that the youth need to be very active and productive in their community and in their religious place of worship, because that's the only thing that they can see and engage in working with others and working with other leaders who are active in their community. And once they see that and they're in that environment, they're going to be productive society to our community. They would become a better person, because by helping someone else, they'll understand that. So basically, we went through all that. How do we engage them? How do we work with youth, and how do we engage them and get them motivated and work with them? First thing you need to understand is you need to know their name and know who they are and everything. Listen to them, don't judge, be friendly, and stay in your line, and don't step over your authority. Those are very important situations that we all need to understand for the youth and working with them. And I'm very lucky that, mashallah, that in Michigan, what we're doing is that, a lot of the social work and the counselors are working together, partnering with the local imams and working with our community, so that way, if a problem occurs or domestic violence or anything occurs, that the youth or the parents don't have to go anywhere else to get help and counseling. So it's really amazing that, we have a good structure that we're all working together and providing this. So, alhamdulillah. Thank you.